The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NBA.
The first back-to-back wins in 2 months.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast.
Moment of the game here. 127-121 win over the Chicago Bulls. Devin Booker, 41 points. That's where I'll start us off.
Yep.
It's a funny one. I'm just going the bank shot that he hit, the rainbow heat check. I mean, actually, it wasn't really a heat check. He took the heat check right after that from the opposite side of the court and missed it. But Book was just on one tonight. Honestly, Chicago gave him the 40-piece because he wasn't even close, and then they made a little run, and he just had to get, like 6 points at the end that actually got him over the hump. But he always closes season strong. This was a night where you could have looked at the Bulls roster and been like, nope, nobody is going to be able to cover him. That's just sort of what it is. And he took full advantage of it. So that's just symbolic. That shot wasn't any sort of big turning point, but it was just one of those where it's like nothing can go wrong for him.
But I think it can be, and that is my moment too. So we can harp on this a little bit. And it's not that specific shot. To me, it's just the Devin Booker scoring bonanza. If we're really picking on one, it was probably the baseline shot later or early on in that fourth quarter. With hand in his face, just absolutely drains it. When Devin Booker's on. He's one of the best scorers in the NBA. At times you could argue one of the best pure scorers in the NBA. Playmaker of his own right, but that shot right there, the one that gets the oohs and ahs from the fans, and I think that is a heat check shot because if you're hitting it off a bank shot,
yeah,
obviously he's not calling that from that far out. So for me, again, don't get your hopes up, but it could be a symbolic moment. This could be a moment where the Suns, like last year when they were going into that 10-game stretch, like, hey, man, when this is all going together, when we have the right guys in place, we can be a team that at least gives other teams fits. Because one thing about tonight and yesterday, I don't care if the game got a little close at the end. No one ever thought the Suns were losing this game.
No. It felt like the Book and KD almost were like, we'll play the rest of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, if they wanted to push the button and say end, like sim to end, they could have, but they kind of were screwing around. You could feel it.
Yeah, I kind of, not that they were screwing around or whatever. They were just playing the rest of the game. I just hated that they continued to play.
Yeah.
But what I will say in defense of Bud, who, all coaches do this, it's not just him, sometimes you want your guys out there just having fun. Even at the cost at a couple of minutes in what a season that has been dragging and been really lackluster to watch and just hard to watch all year, seeing those guys out there just kind of have fun. Like, I'm okay with that.
In the NBA these days, it's like, it's got to be like 25-30 to really feel like they're not coming back. But yeah, I think what you're saying is totally true. Like, this stretch of games can get them out of the rut that they were in. I just was saying, usually when we're talking moment of the game, it's like, and then everything flips. So there wasn't really one of those today, but I think you're right that big picture, the whole game, maybe this is one of those things where it's like, hey, they actually are starting to, this is 3 solid wins in 4 games now. The Lakers one you can't ignore. We were frustrated and mad after that one, and fans were too. That's equally important. I don't think anybody's sitting here saying the whole season's turned around, but there is something to be said. Not only, the back-to-back wins, that's kind of crazy and funny that's even what we're talking about, but for a week now, they've really taken care of business, and they did it again, and, their best players are stepping up, the role players are fitting better. It's looking right for the first time in a bit.
And how much of that has to do with the guys that are on the floor? I don't necessarily agree with people's sometimes non-favorable view of Grayson Allen or even at times Mason Plumlee. Yeah, Mason Plumlee's not great, but he's backup center. At times he's the starting center, but what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Grayson Allen, I think people are a little too harsh. Bradley Beal wasn't there again tonight.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest with you as I look up. Cody Martin had 7 points tonight. I don't think I've seen the guy hit 7 buckets in his career as a Phoenix Sun, but I want to see more of him.
Oh, same.
And it's not just him.
Yeah.
It's Ryan Dunn. It's Oso Ighodaro. energy is contagious, and I think that those guys fed off of that. No, I don't. I think Cody Martin can't hit the right side of a barn when he's shooting the basketball.
I watched him warm up today, and I was like, yeah, it's not just
and that
some kind of fluke. He's the worst shooting brother for sure.
I just think with those guys in there, it was infectious. Dudes are diving on the floor. Why Oso Ighodaro ever got sent to the G League is beyond me. And I swear to God, if anyone tries to argue with me that he just got better from going to the G League, I just
he played like
disagree.
2.5 games.
That's what I mean,
He dominated,
right?
but all right, let's get to our. You can go with yours after, or go first.
No.
First.
I don't want to. You go first because you have a much better lesson than I do. Mine is not as nearly as good.
This honestly could be something we did as a separate segment, but I think it fits for today because everybody's talking about the rookies. I mean, the young players in general. Colin Gillespie, not technically a rookie. Obviously, Cody Martin, not a rookie, but even just with Dunn and Oso, you were just saying it in the last segment. What they're bringing to the court is clearly rubbing off on other players, and Booker has said it multiple times. KD has said it. Everybody can see it with their own eyes. It's not just energy. It's not just like, I think, maybe a positivity and like a fresh mentality that's not so worn down by how awful this season has been because they're just out here fighting. I think it's all that stuff. But it's also interesting to me that part of that, when you hear Book and everything, is they communicate better than some of the other guys on this team, which is crazy and something you wouldn't think of. So I want to look at Bud's history, and I'll bounce some names off you, and just we can kind of go through it pretty quickly. And it illustrates in one way, obviously, what Bud is, what a lot of coaches, I think, they're just hesitant to play rookies. But then I want to talk about, like, I think teams need this, and we can get there. But so the rookie that Bud has coached, and you got to remember, like, he's coached good teams forever, so he's never coached like a lottery pick or whatever. Like, but John Collins, 74 games, 24 minutes a game. That's like that dude was a rotation player basically throughout.
It's an anomaly, though.
You got Mike Muscala, 20 games. These are names people know. Dante DiVincenzo, 27 games. Marjon Beauchamp, who was like a G League hotshot guy, early second-round pick, 52 games, only 14 minutes. There's a bunch of other names that are people you probably don't even remember who played much less even than that.
Taurean Prince.
Yeah, Taurean Prince. He was kind of middling. Tyler Dorsey was an Oregon guy with Dylan Brooks' team. He was, a little bit of a combo guard, rotation guard guy. But Collins was really the only one that this has ever happened with. And it's... So, okay, that's like somewhat normal. Like, I think Ty Jerome the other day went viral because he was saying he didn't get along with Monty, right? Like, coaches have that. It's not, like, unique to Bud. It's not unique to the Suns. But I just, like, hearing how much these guys are rubbing off, it's the exact opposite of what we typically think, right? It's like, oh, the vets are having such an impact on the rookies. That guy's my mentor. That guy's whatever. But it feels like this season, as like a basketball fan, as a reporter, as a whatever you want to call me, like, it's opened my eyes to the fact where it's like, I think it actually is important, and we can probably go around other teams in the NBA, to have that kind of hunger and like competitiveness, also kind of pushing the rest of your group up. Like, you do need youth in a way that's not just on the court. Like the mental and the competitive side of it, I actually think it really helps.
Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, you will have multiple qualified candidates to choose from. And you can create cost-effective growth for your company. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps you find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork.com, UPWORK.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today.
The Sacramento Kings, severely short-handed, stun not just the Cavaliers, not just all of Cleveland, but all of the NBA.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast.
What a freaking win for the Sacramento Kings. Unbelievable effort, unbelievable fight. The Cleveland Cavaliers, I know, is the second night of a back-to-back. I'm sure as hell not going to use that as an excuse, considering the Cavaliers were taking on a Kings team missing 3 primary rotation players, including 2 of the 3 best players on this Kings roster. No Domantas Sabonis, no Zach LaVine, who is out for this game with a personal issue, and then no Jake LaRavia, who was a massive part of that second unit that the Sacramento Kings had in their successful victory on Monday night against the Memphis Grizzlies. 3 important players, 2 stars, not available. And you take on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Granted, they were without Darius Garland, but you took them on and you beat them straight up in a hard-fought, defensively driven game. I want to make sure that I don't gloss over the first quarter, because I think how the first quarter went is a tremendous part of this story and a tremendous credit to the Sacramento Kings in this game. The Kings came out and they could not score. I think they had 4 points halfway through the first quarter. Offensively, they couldn't get anything going. They were missing shots. They're like 1 of 17 or 1 of 18 from the field early on in this game. They were struggling to touch the paint, struggling to get anywhere near the basket. The Cavaliers' defense was forcing them into a lot of tough jumpers, and it just was not working. The Kings offensively were in the mud right from the very beginning, which is to be expected when you're missing guys like Sabonis and LaVine. But Sacramento's defense from the jump, and it's not a coincidence that Keon Ellis was in the starting lineup, the Sacramento Kings won another basketball game. But the Kings defense from the jump was active, engaged, aggressive. The second and third efforts were fantastic. The closeouts were there. The communication was strong. They were physical. They weren't allowing themselves to get pushed around. They were, as Doug Christie says, making the Cavaliers feel them every single time they had the basketball and were attacking on the offensive end of the floor. That allowed the Kings to keep the game manageable. Held the Cavaliers, forgive me, I don't remember the exact number, but I think held the Cavaliers to only I want to say 24 or something like that points in the first quarter, maybe even less than that, right? The Kings and Cavaliers, neither of them got off to a good start in this game, and both teams established themselves defensively, which I give more credit to the Kings in that aspect, with how hard they fought defensively, given the players that they're missing, even though, again, Cleveland on the second night of a back-to-back. I just thought their first quarter effort allowed for them to stay in the game and slowly start to figure out how to score. Because for the rest of the game, I mean, the Kings still scored 123 points. The Kings scored 123 points in a game where they had only 15 points in the first quarter. Like, that's tremendous. Offensively, obviously, they figured some things out. They got themselves going. But defensively, they fought and scratched and clawed through that first quarter and didn't allow themselves to fall behind by 15 or 20 points. If you would have told me coming into this game, the Kings were only going to score 15 points in the first quarter against the Cleveland Cavaliers, I would have told you the Kings were probably down by 20 at the end of the first. But they weren't. And what was great was that defensive effort carried out throughout the remainder of the game. Now, I know Cleveland scored 119 points, but they had to work for everything. Sacramento's defense and their effort and their intensity on that end of the floor was fantastic the entire night. Devin Carter, I'm going to talk exclusively about Devin, and you're going to hear Doug Christie and Keegan Murray, and also from Devin himself, but you're going to hear them talk about Devin in the next segment. Devin Carter was huge. I mean, he sparked a monstrous third quarter run from the Kings. It's the second night in a row where Sacramento's defense accomplished 2 very important goals that have directly led to these back-to-back victories at home. Number one, their defense got their offense going. The shots weren't falling. Sacramento wasn't touching the paint. Defensively, they started getting stops, started getting steals, getting out in transition. 9 steals, 23 points off of the Cavaliers' turnovers, and 16 fast break points. It's exactly what the Kings did on Monday against the Grizzlies, except they did it tonight down Zach LaVine, one of their best scorers, and down Jake LaRavia, who was Devin Carter's partner in crime defensively during the big push that the Kings made in Monday night's win. Tonight, it's Devin Carter and it's Keon Ellis. Trey Lyles deserves to be in that group too. Trey had a fantastic game off of the bench for the Kings, playing a lot of the small ball 5 for the second straight game. He was phenomenal in this game. But Sacramento's defense got their offense going. That's number one. And number two, Sacramento's defense sent the Golden One Center into an absolute frenzy. This is, without a doubt, the loudest I've heard this building get so far this season. It was deafening. This is, in fact, the loudest I have heard this building since the playoffs. Since Game 1, Game 2 of the 2023 NBA playoffs when the Kings beat the Warriors. I have not heard this building louder at any point from those games to tonight than it was tonight. Like, it was unbelievable, the energy. And that just goes to show you, right? This Kings crowd loves fight. They love hustle, and they got that hustle in abundance tonight from everybody on this Kings roster. And, here's another testament to Doug Christie as the interim head coach and what he's been able to do for this Kings team, right? Since taking over, the Sacramento Kings are 12-3 here inside the Golden One Center with Doug Christie as their interim head coach. Playing at home and winning at home was a big struggle for this team in all the time that Mike Brown was here as the head coach. Now, Mike Brown had this Kings team finding a way to create their own energy and pick up some very significant wins and win some tough games on the road. This team was very good on the road for the 2 years that Mike Brown was here. But they never quite got this crowd into the game as much as they should have with how much this crowd brings that energy every single night. Doug Christie has tapped into that. And, of course, DC knows that crowd and knows that energy better than anyone because he played for it, played in front of it in the early 2000s when he was a part of the glory years here of the Sacramento Kings. So Doug and this Kings team they've figured out how to get their team involved, or get this crowd involved, and it's with that energy and that response to the hustle and the fight, especially on the defensive end and the opportunities that leads on offense. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I was waiting during that third quarter push and into the fourth quarter. I was waiting. I'm like, okay, this is great. This is fun. No matter what, I'm going to be happy on the Locked On Kings podcast because this was a phenomenal fight from the Kings tonight. But when is it coming from the Cavs? When are they going to flip that switch? When are they going to say, okay, enough's enough, stop playing with their food and be the 56-12 Cleveland Cavaliers that they were coming into tonight's game? A team on a 2-game losing streak and determined not to allow it to be 3. Right? I was waiting for that moment. And then Evan Mobley exploded in the third quarter. 12 points in the third quarter. He brought the Cavs back by himself. He single-handedly shut down all of that energy that Devin Carter and the Kings had built for themselves with that big run in the third quarter. He said, enough's enough. Give me the damn basketball. And he took over. Erased that entire lead, even put the Cavaliers back on top late in the third quarter. But, man, that they flipped that switch, and then the Kings flipped it right back. They kept fighting. They took those punches, punched right back. And then they closed this game out in a very fitting way. DeMar DeRozan, 11 points in the fourth quarter, 5 of 8 from the field in the fourth quarter. He was the big shot maker for the Sacramento Kings when they needed him. He had 27 total points to lead the Kings tonight. And then you had Malik Monk hit a nasty, creative step-back jumper to really put the dagger in this game and cement Sacramento's victory. He had 22 points and 8 assists tonight. He was one of the only guys that was scoring early in this game when Sacramento's offense was struggling to get going. You have your defense and you have your rookie and your role players make these tremendous defensive efforts to really establish yourself and give yourself a lead and put yourself in this game. And then you had your stars, your main guys, close this game out. It's a great recipe for success. The Sacramento Kings found that tonight.
March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. You've got to have those 5-12 upsets all ready. Those 4-13 upsets, maybe even a 3-14 in there just to get a little spice. Are we having fun yet? And with FanDuel, they make it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. The tournament games happen almost every day, so there's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. Looking at the first four, there's a matchup of perennial tournament teams in the first four. The Xavier Musketeers face the Texas Longhorns. Winner will get Illinois next. FanDuel likes the Muskies by 3.5 in this one. Do people say that? Do they call them that? So they do now. Visit FanDuel.com and get on the college hoops action all tournament long.
The Lakers roll over the Nuggets in a game that lost a little bit of its juice.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast.
After it seemed like maybe things were getting into dicey territory with that 4-game losing streak, no LeBron James, Rui Hachimura is injured. They have righted the ship, and the ship stays right again on Wednesday night. Final score against the Nuggets, 120-108 in a game the Lakers really did control throughout. Do want to let people know that today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. So we talked about it heading into this one, Andy. This was going to be one of those measuring stick games where we compare like the new Lakers, even without LeBron and Rui, but still a new, different vibe to the Nuggets. And we'll see if that curse has been broken, and it's like all that stuff. Well, that didn't happen because Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray were both out of this game. I
argue that means the curse was broken.
Maybe because they're ducking the Lakers. They were too scared to play.
Well, and Nikola Jokic got a case of Jacksonitis and said, "No, thank you.
Nope, don't want a piece of that." That is my
kidding
story.
Aside, he seems to actually be dealing with something. Michael Malone talked before the game. He's like, this is not rest. This is not load management. Jokic is actually trying to get through an injury. We want to get him right before the playoffs begin.
Yeah, which makes sense. But so so we're not going to learn long-term lessons about this game. We cannot use this one to figure out what a Lakers-Nuggets playoff matchup would look like, just like we couldn't use last week's game in Denver to give any sort of insight because the Lakers were missing their entire rotation. But just because, Andy, the game was missing some of that head-to-head juice doesn't mean it was any less important. The Lakers with this had a chance to essentially lock up, or at least get real close to locking up the season series in the tiebreaker against the Nuggets if they finish with a better conference record or they win their division. Lakers will have that tiebreaker over Denver, which certainly could come in handy. It keeps them in that top four. With Denver losing, Memphis lost on Wednesday night as well. This was a really significant game, and the Lakers, to say the least, came out with a full understanding of how big a game this was, even without Denver's stars on the floor.
Well, certainly Luka Doncic did at the very least. The Lakers, they won this game 120-108, and honestly, the score is not really indicative of how much the Lakers dominated this game. They got sloppy towards the end of the second quarter and a bit of the opening of the third, but then
a couple minutes, but not too bad.
A few minutes of it. And then there was a period where Austin Reeves went on a bit of a mini run himself, I guess, to complement the absolute domination run that Luka had in the first and really opened the game back up to the point where garbage time got sloppy, but it really, the Lakers never trailed in this game. They led wire to wire, and the 46 points that they had in the first quarter, that is a season high for any quarter this year. And Luka, to put it mildly, went absolutely supernova. 21 points, 7 of 11 from the field, 3 of 5 from behind the arc, 4 of 6 at the line, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, and a block. That's his first quarter. Like, that was just Luka setting the tone for this game, like letting folks know what might be ahead for them. There was one point where he pulled up from just inside the logo for a 3, drilled it, and honestly,
it was so clean. Like it was nothing but that net zone. Didn't touch the rim, didn't go near it. It was dead center inside that little hoop.
I mean, he might as well at that point have just yelled out YOLO. I mean, like he was just in his bag, looking to create a cushion for the Lakers that basically would allow them to withstand anything else that would happen in this game. Like I said, they did not close out the half well at all. They didn't open the first few minutes of the third quarter particularly well. But beyond the fact that they got their proverbial bleep back together and then some, when you open a quarter with 46 points, close it up by 17, you give yourself some wiggle room. This is from there.
Yeah.
So,
9 3-pointers. Lakers tied a franchise record with 9 3-pointers in the first quarter, and these were not, contested threes. The only YOLO threes in there were Luka and just for funsies bombing from the logo. And by the way, he hit 2 of the 3.
And also similar to LeBron pre-Luka and Kobe pre-LeBron, there are guys who have the permission structure to take whatever shot they effing please. Luka's one of them.
He is one of them. He did hit 2 of 3.
Sure.
But what was amazing about it, and I have given this some thought, Andy, I've really dug into it, considered it. I didn't want to make a snapper. I think it was really dumb of Dallas to trade Luka Doncic. He's really good. And, it's to have, we have gotten used to players who can sort of control the game with the ball in their hands. And I've obviously seen that with LeBron over the last few years, and have 2 of those guys now is quite a thing. But the Lakers, the shot quality in the first quarter, it was not guys hoisting up contested threes or late threes or forced threes or anything like that. These were, you can't pass them up kind of threes. They were so wide open. And, I forget exactly what the number was. They took, I think, 48 threes the other night, and 2/3 of them or something like that were uncontested. And it was just like that the first quarter on Monday. And that's Luka being able to get into the lane, no question. It's Luka being able to, hit those step back threes, which open up his ability to get in the lane. Like it starts with Doncic, there's no question. But now you have all these guys, and the ball is really flying around, and it's hopping and all that stuff. And people are getting phenomenal looks from 3.
And remember too, this is all happening without LeBron and without Rui tonight. Both of those guys will create or be the beneficiary of those looks as well. In the case of Rui, he's one of the best finishers on this team in terms of just the ability to finish plays from behind the arc, the ability to finish plays at the rim. And LeBron is one of the only players in the league who can create at the level of Luka, and he's going to be back. So, like, I see a comment from Matt in the comments section about how the Lakers went at one point about 5.5 minutes without scoring, which obviously was an issue. And JJ was furious during his halftime interview with Mike Trudell for Spectrum Sportsnet. He did not like the way Denver was able to run out every miss that the Lakers had. He also thought that they gave up too many second chance opportunities. The transition defense was bad for a section, but some of those misses are not going to happen when you have LeBron and Rui. Like, I'm not saying those two cure everything, but they make a difference with your offense at the very least. They're two of your best offensive players.
It's just, I mean, they're going to have stretches where every team has stretches where they don't score, they miss. I mean, they shot something like 67% or something for the first 18 minutes of that game from three. There was going to be a little bit of regression there, even if the shots still look good. And very rarely in the NBA do you not reach some sort of lull after running up a 28-point lead. It is what it is. And then rarely in the NBA, even with terrible teams, do you not see the opposition put 4 or 5 possessions together to create, a 10-0 run, whatever it might be.